in mind.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the January 17th, 2020 meeting of the Circuit 13 Juvenile Justice Advisory Board to order. And I would ask if everyone would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome everybody and Happy New Year. And thank you for joining us for our first meeting of 2020. And as we typically do, I'd like to start with introductions. And perhaps we can just start with Ms. Smith and go around the table.
Sure, Anita Smith, and I'm the Executive Director of Friends of the Children Tampa Chapter.
Good morning, I'm Carmi Brown. I am the Chief Program Officer with Friends of the Children National.
Good morning, I'm Pat McGee from the Department of Juvenile Justice Prevention.
Good morning, Yvette Boatwright with Court Administration.
Rocky Brancato from the Public Defender's Office.
Kurt Royka, Tampa Police.
Elvin Martinez Jr. with Bays, Florida.
Jennifer Cristiano with ACTS.
Judy Royston from Department of Juvenile Justice.
Rob Parkinson, Hillsborough County Criminal Justice.
Chrissy Dorian, Hillsborough County Schools.
Natalie Steiner, Department of Juvenile Justice.
And Cindy Grant with Hillsborough County Anti-Drug Alliance, trying to fill in for Gary.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you here, Ms. Grant, and thank you for joining us. Okay, has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes of our November 2019 meeting? If so, I would entertain a motion to approve them or amend them, make any corrections, deletions, additions.
Motion to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The minutes have been adopted. Thank you very much. So we've got a lot on the agenda today, and I'm going to try to get us through it as efficiently as possible. And I'm going to make a couple of adjustments, and we're going to start today with a presentation from Friends of the Children. And so, you know, one of the benefits, or one of the perks, I guess, of the job that I have is I get to meet folks all over the state of Florida, and quite often I meet people who you have a conversation with and you walk away inspired and you walk away kind of renewed in your ambition to find ways to better serve children and families. And that was my experience when I met Nita Smith for the first time. And Nita has spent most of her time, her professional career over in the Pinellas County side of Tampa Bay, but finds herself through her work with Friends of the Children spending more time in Hillsborough. And so I hope that you all will be equally as excited to welcome Nita into the Hillsborough County juvenile justice community. And she's going to tell us about the program. And Carmi Brown is here as well. So the two of them are going to share some information about their program with us. Welcome.
Absolutely, thank you. Come up here. Thank you, Elvin. You have been an incredible champion for Friends of Children in a short amount of time. So I brought you your official T-shirt. So you're welcoming you to our family, Friends of the Children.
Excellent.
And
all right.
very nice.
Thanks. Come and get it before somebody takes it. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's what our kids wear, it's what our staff wear, it's what I wear, and so welcome to the family. Well, thank you for the opportunity, Elvin and others. We're, like Elvin mentioned, I'm the Executive Director for Friends of the Children Tampa Chapter, and I'm really blessed to have Carmi Brown here today with me. Some of you know her. Karma is now the Chief Program Officer for National Office of Friends of Children based in Portland, Oregon. But Karma lives here in Tampa. So whenever I have an opportunity to utilize her knowledge and skill set and strength, and I ask her to be here with us. So you may know that Friends of the Children was launched here in Tampa, Tampa Bay area in 2014. R.E.D Connects brought Friends of Children to Florida as an affiliate, as a program under one of their many programs. And all those kids that we recruited, I think it was 64 in the very beginning, were recruited from the foster care system. And so we currently have 45 kids that we're serving, and they are all through the Pinellas, Pasco, Hillsborough County. Spending more time in Hillsborough because most of our kids are in Hillsborough County that we're serving. They're now in 5th and 6th grade. They were kindergarten back in 2014. And our office was over where Chrissy's. That's how I met. So it's great to see you again. And in 2018, a decision was made to launch a nonprofit and launch Friends of the Children Tampa as a separate 501c3. So like I mentioned, we have 45 kids in 5th and 6th grades, doing very well, 24 in Hillsborough County. I'm going to start with a video called The Power of One. And I want you to think about what this Friends of Children could look like here. We are a solution. We're not the only solution, but we are a solution. And it is an incredible model. And think about who we need to partner with, who we need to be talking to. And then at your table is a 2-pager on us, so you learn a little bit about us that you can take with you. And then I'll invite you to our breakfast on March 10th at WellCare Health Plans. It's our signature fundraiser as a new nonprofit. We need to know you're coming, so please register online. And it is a fundraiser, so it's please know that when you come. So I'm going to start with this video, and please sit back and learn about Friends of the Children.
Every child has a story. No matter who they are or where they live, they have dreams of doing big things. They have unique talents, and they face obstacles. But some children face more obstacles than others, sometimes a lot more. Things like generational poverty, schools that are under-resourced, criminal justice, foster care, hunger, and even homelessness. Believe it or not, there's actually a number that can predict how many obstacles like these a child will face. This number is their zip code. Now, there isn't any one person to blame for this. It is a problem generated by 1,000 factors, and it continues one generation after another. This problem can seem overwhelming and too complicated to solve, but it isn't. Friends of the Children is a nonprofit organization that's been breaking the cycle of poverty one child at a time. We know that any child in any situation can succeed, even those facing the most obstacles. To that end, we provide a salaried professional mentor called a friend for each child who works with them from kindergarten to graduation, 12 and a half years, no matter what. These mentors work with each child every week on 9 core assets of personal strength, like growth mindset, problem solving, and self-management, all of which they will need to overcome the many obstacles in their path. It is a big investment to commit to a child for their entire childhood, but it's a model that's been working for over 25 years. While 60% of our children's parents have been impacted by the criminal justice system, 93% of our children avoid the criminal justice system. 50% of our parents didn't have the support necessary to graduate high school. 83% of Friends youth celebrate graduation. 85% of our parents started parenting during their teen years. 98% of Friends youth wait until after their teen years to become parents. Each dollar invested in a child returns $7 to the community. The Harvard Business School Association of Oregon estimates that helping one child through this program can save the United States around $900,000. But what these numbers don't capture is the immeasurable value of changing one single life. Children in our program become leaders in their community and successful in their careers, which has ripple effects to their siblings, peers, and neighbors, but also to their children, breaking the cycle of generational poverty. Friends of the Children is growing rapidly as communities across the country are experiencing the power of how one changes a child's story. One friend, one child, 12 and a half years, no matter what. Become a part of this story today. friendsofthechildren.org.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague who launched this program here in Tampa, Carmi Brown, our Chief Program Officer for Friends of the Children National.
Hi, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
I want to do that again. Good, thank you. So like Nita said, back in 2014, I was working for R.E.D, been in this community all of my career, worked for DCF and Hillsborough Kids and was working for R.E.D, and we decided to bring this as a program of R.E.D as an affiliate. Most of our chapters across the country are their own separate 501c3s, and we were the first chapter in our organization to serve foster youth. So that was really, really interesting. But who we are Friends of the Children. We are a mentoring company, a mentoring organization that serves youth for 12 and a half years, no matter what. So we only select youth that are ages 4 to 6 years old. So typically that kindergarten age range, we've gone back to the 4-year-old age range, so we even serve some preschoolers. We do not take children in our program beyond the first grade because it is our motto to serve the children for their entire school career until high school graduation, no matter what. This is our founder, Duncan Campbell. We were founded in Portland, Oregon back in 1993. Duncan had an interesting story, and some of you have gotten a copy of his book, The Art of Being There. Highly recommend it, read. Nita can definitely get you a copy if you'd like. I mean, it kind of tells the story of how he ended up being really successful in life, but it was because of mentors in his life that helped him along the way. So he started Friends of the Children because when he thought back on his life and thought back on others who didn't make it, he said, what would they have needed? And it was a friend. So our professional mentors are actually called friends. That is their job title. And again, we assign or match our youth ages 4 to 6 with a professional mentor, and our youth are guaranteed a spot in our program as long as they live in our area for the entire duration of their school career. And now we are, I believe we're going to get to that. We're in 21 locations now, so we have grown rapidly over the past few years. I often get asked, well, who are these children and how do you find them? So here in Tampa, in Hillsborough County, we actually served Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco. We actually, again, partnered with R.E.D to assign our youth from the foster care system. But our traditional model is to partner with schools. We identify our children in kindergarten. We look for kids that some other programs have a hard time serving. Those are the kids that we want. We serve kids that are facing the greatest challenges. We look for the kids that are, not doing as well in school already in kindergarten. We look for the kids that are facing extreme challenges inside and outside of school. And those are the kids that we get their parents' permission to serve them for those 12 and a half years. So that was our traditional way. We did that for about 20 years. And then we started partnering with the foster care system, like I said, back in 2014, so 6 years ago. And now we partner with community agencies. So we have a third way. In our LA and New York chapters, we are serving the minor children of adults who themselves grew up in foster care. And we are finding these minor children through agencies in the community that are serving the young adults. We're also partnering with other youth-serving organizations that may not directly be related to the schools or the foster care system. However, the kids are still the same type of kids that have great potential, kids that are phenomenal kids that just don't have the same opportunities that other kids do. So those are the kids that we look for. Often also are asked, who are the friends? Who are these people that are serving these kids? Our friends are professionals. They are not volunteers. This is their full-time job. They get paid to do this work. They each serve 8 children for 4 hours a week each. They do 2 hours inside the classroom, regardless of how we identify that child, whether we get them through foster care or through school selection. We still have a partnership with every school district that we work with so that our friends can actually go into the classroom and serve the youth 2 hours a week. And then they serve 2 hours in the community where they're teaching them life skills and core assets and social and emotional learning skills. Our friends, again, are folks that actually have backgrounds and have worked with children. Our friends have degrees, 4-year degrees, and they're people that just believe that this is their life calling. So those are the people that we hire and look for, and we're actually in the process of expanding, and we're really excited about that. We're going to be serving in Foster Elementary, so we're actually going to be hiring additional mentors to serve more kids, so we're super excited about that. You can't really see this, but these are our core values, and I don't have to go through them, but we work very hard to ensure that everything that we do, every role that we have, every person in this organization, and that our kids understand that we value them, we put them first. And everything we do, we look at building relationships on love, and equity is a huge one. We want to make sure our kids have the same opportunities that other kids have. And we're very data-driven, so commit to empowerment and pursue goals relentlessly is huge for us. When our mentors are out with our youth, after they finish their outing with the youth, they come back and enter into our database. Efforts to Outcome is the database, and we're able to collect data. We are a research-driven organization, a data-driven organization, because we like to, brag about how we prove that our model works. You saw some of the statistics in the video. We have a long-term randomized control trial right now that has been for 12 years. So these kids started in kindergarten, they're graduating from high school right now, and what we're seeing is the model works. They are, graduating from high school, our 3 long-term outcomes, that every kid graduates from high school, that every kid avoids of involvement with the juvenile justice system. We are at 98% with that. And our third one is that none of our kids become teen parents. And we are working hard every day to achieve those outcomes. I mentioned some of our expansion cities. Everything in blue is already a city that we're serving in, and some of our potential sites are here. So we are continuing to grow across the country. Would love some more in the South or the East Coast because I travel a lot, and yeah. Our model works. Like I said, we have tons of research and evidence to prove that it works, and we'd be more than willing to go into more detail and share that with you. Again, our outcomes, we've added the last one. So the video talked about the first 3 that I just mentioned, but we also are tracking our youth beyond their exit of our program. We want to make sure that we did all this good work for 12 years. Are they successful after? And what we found as we dug into the data, 92% of our youth are either we call it the 3 E's: education, enlistment, or enrollment. So they're doing something with their lives after they leave Friends of the Children, and that really excites us. So we have all the data proving that we get them out of high school. Now what? And that's what we're excited about, the after. The Harvard Business School Association of Oregon did a return on investment study on us and saw that every $1 invested in a youth yielded $7 to the community. So again, helping one child saves our community $900,000, and that is huge. Our model, like I said, research has shown that the single most important factor for building resiliency in children who face the highest risk is having that long-term, consistent relationship with the caring adult. And that's what we do. We're not replacing the parents. We are just an addition in the child's life to support that child through the good times. And we're typically, outside of the parent, the most consistent professional in that child's life. This is our model. I'm not going to go through it, but we have strategies that we utilize through our core assets, which are social and emotional learning skills. We have all these intermediate outcomes that we measure every single week, every single month, annually, and then we look to achieve those 3 long-term outcomes after our 12 years. But that's the how. People ask, well, how do you do that? How do you prove it? Well, this is all the how. Everything on this screen is the how we get to that point. And these, again, the model's broken down a little bit more, and again, I can definitely share this with you, but, essentially, we're looking for children and families that have been impacted by trauma, that have a high number of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and again, we want to assign a mentor and serve those families. This model represents our two-generational impact that I talked about in LA, where we're serving those minor children, but we're also serving the parents. And that is something that we're interested in moving our entire network into the direction of, because we already doing it, we just weren't really collecting data around how we serve the entire family. Because what we're finding is serving a kid is great, but serving the family to help the whole family so that the kid doesn't end up in the same situation again is even better. So the parents can have goals for themselves, so the parents can achieve their educational goals, their financial goals, their health and well-being goals. So that is where we're moving to, that we're not just serving the child. The child is still always going to be the core and the center of what we do, but we want to serve that entire family unit in a more intentional, very strategic way. So that is where we're going. Again, I talked about our child selection. We, regardless of how we select, again, it's kids that need us the most. We want to be in communities that say, we want you because our kids need you. We don't go into a new city until that community welcomes us and they raise the money to bring us there. I just left Detroit last week. I'm going back next week. Detroit wanted us, so we are launching in Detroit right now because they said, we have a great need. We have a high level of poverty. How can we get you here? And so I've been helping to guide that, and so I'm super excited that we are launching in Detroit. Elements that we utilize are here. The biggest thing is, again, we do all this work, and I think number 6 is huge for me. We evaluate it, we measure it, and then we look to improve upon what we're doing constantly. Again, we're intentional in the work that we do, and we want to make sure that we are doing the best that we can do to help these kids achieve all these outcomes. So again, we look for kids facing the highest risk. Some of this has been covered in the videos. Again, our mentors are professional, salaried, not volunteers. That makes a huge difference. And last line on this slide, several of our friends have been with the organization for 20 plus years. The average tenure is 5 years. And for those of you that know how caseworkers and other organizations, they turn over every year. I know. Many of our mentors stick around 7, 8, 10 years, but 5 is the average. And even with that number, that's because we have a lot of new chapters that is attaching to that data. So, but these are people that say this is their life calling. They're not just in it just for a job, and that's important. The long haul, 12 and a half years, no matter what. Individualized and intentional. 8 kids each. Mentor has 4 hours a week, and they stay for an average of 5 years. Very intentional. They get 16 hours a month with their mentor. And each kid has their own goal that they develop. We call them roadmap goals in each of our intermediate outcome areas. We are the people that know what's going on in the home, and we're able to tell the school, hey, there's something going on here. We're able to tell the family, hey, you might want to go to the school. So we are eyes. We are in the home, in the community. Again, we know the child probably better than any other professional in that child's life, and we're with them longer. And then, like I said, we evaluate, measure, and look to improve. Core assets, I won't go into them, but these are, again, our social and emotional learning skills. There are 9 research-based skills that we look to develop every single time we're with the kid. And so, and our kids can call these out. And we have very interesting ways that we help our kids to achieve these. Belonging is not only, do I belong to this community? Do I belong in my own body? How does that look? So we talk about, their self-esteem. Do I belong in this school, in this community? And then our kids that are so transient and move around, we help them reestablish belonging every time they move. Every time they move schools, although we actually, with the mentor being in their lives, they typically have less school moves and less, the family just becomes more stable is what we found. Some of that we didn't even anticipate, specifically with the foster care population. The kids were able to go home sooner and achieve permanency sooner. And we didn't anticipate that initially, but that is what we found pretty early on with the youth that we served here in the Tampa Bay area. we're, well positioned to replicate our model. We are continuing to grow. We would love to serve more kids. Like I said, we're not confined to just selecting from the school. So if there's a community agency that says, I think this would be a great partnership, let's talk to Nita, let's talk about it. Let's identify how we can continue to expand and spread and serve more youth. I mean, it's our goal to serve every child that needs a mentor. They would have a friend. That is our goal. Here are some of our national partners. We just, like to list them so you know who has gotten behind us. I think, is Michael Jordan on here? Michael Jordan is another huge sponsor of ours. He sought us out and he found us and said, this works and I want to give some of my money. And he committed a multi-million-dollar, multi-year commitment to serve our kids across the country. So it is super, super exciting what we're doing here, and thank you for all of you in this room that have already been huge supporters of ours. We could not make this happen without the support of folks like Chrissy in the school district and other folks in this room that have just really, been just behind us. And thank you, Elvin, for allowing us to be here today and continuing to be a champion for us. And I tried to get it all done. Elvin told me I had 10 minutes of your time before I lose you. So I'll stop right there. I know I've been talking fast. Any questions from me or Nita?
Well, I applaud the work that you're doing, and to see that so far 93% of the children that you have served have not entered the delinquency system is something I think that we all anecdotally know, right? Like if a child has a mentor if a child's at risk and they have somebody in their life that invests time with them one-on-one like that, we all kind of know that they're less likely to enter the delinquency system, but your program and the data that you've collected illustrates that. And
Absolutely.
so I can certainly appreciate that, because one of the focuses of the work that we do is trying to identify opportunities and resources to keep children from entering the system in the first place.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
so thank you all for everything that you do. Are there any questions that anybody has?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Benjamin, you had a question, sir. Would you mind coming to the podium just so the folks at home can hear what you're saying?
Thank you so much for the presentation. I do have a question regarding the ages and the children you serve. Are you also serving children of inmates or ex-offenders as well?
Yeah, so
can you tell me a little bit about that?
So interestingly enough, Chicago is one of the cities that we serve in. So we are forming partnerships with them, with agencies that specifically serve ex-offenders. And we're looking to do community selection in Chicago with that group. And they are very much welcoming that. And Detroit, last week I met with a very interesting group that is an emergency room doctor paired with an ex-gang member that started an organization called D-Live for Detroit Live, and the Live stands for something. And they serve gunshot victims right in the hospital and then beyond the hospital. They got these guys do it. And these are all gang-affiliated gunshot victims, because the doctor kept seeing these repeat people coming back. They got shot in the left arm this week and next month the right arm. And it's like, oh my goodness. He teamed up with this awesome guy, and they make the most awesome team. And we are actually looking in Detroit to serve the young children of these young men that they serve. So pretty awesome partnerships. And we do get funding from the Office of Dependency and Juvenile Justice Prevention, OJDP. So we absolutely serve those families, and we would love to serve more of those families.
Question. I just wanted to ask, how do you select the types of programs when you go into each city? Is it something that you just you sit down and find out what their needs are?
We do. So our traditional model is partnering with schools, because regardless of which type of selection we do, we still go in the classroom. So some of the first people that we meet with is the school district in those cities. But then we talk to the people. Again, we're inviting in. People hear about us somehow, whether we speak at a conference or something, and then they want more information, and we say, okay. And then we raise the seed capital to bring, because that's the other thing, organizations that there's tons of nonprofits that start up, they have enough funding for this year, and then they fail. Our funding is very diversified, so we don't take just state funding. So that's another thing, and that's an aside. But once the money's raised, as we're raising it, we're talking, we're meeting with people, we're figuring out who's going to be our partners, who should we be talking to, and yeah, whether it's community agencies, whether it's the foster care system in Detroit. We are at the point right now where we're about to make those commitments. So it's either going to be from foster care, some prevention kids, or we're going to get a few from that D-Live organization and some from some schools. So we may do a diversified group of selection in that city. So we're open to what the community says.
Okay, my last comment, have you talked to Assistant Secretary Alice Sims? Because I know that mentoring is one of our key priorities, and I'm sure she would be interested in hearing a little bit more about your program.
Have you?
I met with Patty Babcock. Am I saying that right? DJJ, right? Yes, DCF, I'm sorry.
SDCF.
I have met with, at the conference in Orlando, met with, what's her name? The head of DJJ at the state level.
Secretary Marsteller.
Secretary yes.
Okay.
And we're starting that work to continue to communicate. It just, first thing we had to do when we first launched here in Tampa was get our 501c3. We had to be legal to raise money. And build a board, got an awesome board of 12 right now that are real committed to raising dollars to make this model work. But yeah, I went to Orlando just to see her, just to meet her with Elva. Elvin said, "You got to go with me," so I did. But thank you. Anything else?
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so one more item out of order here. We're going to do a member update, and I've asked Ms. Holt if she could provide an update. I don't know if she has anything regarding Safe and Sound, but she may have some additional information to share with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Chair, and thank you for taking me out of order. On behalf of Safe and Sound and Freddie Barton, we did not have an update. We took a break for the holidays, and so we're now working on our next Safe Summit that we'll have this year, but we'll give you that date as soon as we have it solidified. What I did want to do, though, today is have the Juvenile Justice Board celebrate with us the fact that we are just today celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the Juvenile Mental Health Court. And we actually, with the State Attorney's Office and our office and with the Chief Judge, Ronnie Ficarotto, we've made a good backwards look at what have we done over the last year, what's worked and what hasn't worked. And as you know, here in Hillsborough County, we want to use best practices for all of our problem-solving courts. And so this year, we're going to enhance the best practices. And all new children coming into this particular court will now have a risk assessment and an ACEs assessment also. All of our high-risk children, thank you to the Department of Juvenile Justice, is going to provide additional supervision as appropriate for those children in order to try and keep them on the right path, because as you can imagine with mental health issues, they do need a little bit more assistance. We've also decided that what we're going to do is, even if the children are not incompetent to proceed, and if we identify through their evaluations that they have mental health challenges, however, we're going to keep those children within this particular court so that we can actually give them all the services that they would be entitled to if they were incompetent to proceed. The wraparound services will be much better there. We're putting in a uniform system for compliance reports so that every single provider will now be providing the same exact information. Although Chrissy is not in the court as often as she was during that first year, we still have Melissa Russo, and Chrissy is still our still our point person. But I think it'd be remiss, since Superintendent Akins is leaving this year, I would want to say out loud that to me, having the school system be an integral part of this problem-solving court has been tremendous, not only for the school system itself, but obviously for all of us in the criminal justice system. We're going to start what we call basically a success type of board, where we are going to certainly provide positive reinforcement to the kids when they're doing good things. And we're going to certainly try to use the best practices there, which means you talk a lot about successes and you try to minimize those things that are not a success in order to challenge our children to continue to do better. Which means that we're now going to be in the process, interesting that y'all were just talking about raising monies and things like that, because we're going to have to look at a component and a means by which to raise donations in order to do these things on behalf of the kids. When I tell you that we did a deep dive and looked at what was working or not working, that included how our evaluations were being done. And what we've decided now is that the evaluations will be expanded in order to really assist the court as well as the state attorney's office and the public defender's office in choosing the appropriate path for these children for the future. So that is something that I think is significantly different than any other court that might be operating here in the state of Florida. We couldn't do this, obviously, without the partnership of everyone sitting at this table as well as our community. So I wanted to tell you that something that we identified, obviously, a long time ago that we wanted to see, not only has it come to fruition, not only has our vision been met, but we can actually report that it is working in a very good and positive way. It's created stronger relationships between the state attorney's office and the public defender's office because we're all working to the same goal, and that is to try and help these children find a good way of life and also to be successful and to recognize that their life has a tremendous value. They've just been given challenges. So I want to thank you very much, all of you, for the support. Travis is here on behalf of the State Attorney's Office. Travis Coy's here with us, and I'm sure he'll report back to Mr. Warren, the State Attorney. But you can certainly know and check off that we have accomplished something that's working very well, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Parkinson.
Ms. Holt, I know that one of your Safe and Sound subcommittees continue to meet over the holidays to meet a deadline in January. That was Ms. Marie Marino's subgroup.
Yes.
And they have something scheduled next week. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
We do, and it's on January 23rd, and so let me make sure I give the exact information that's for sure. So we're having a community dinner and conversation on mental health. It is at the Dream Center of Tampa, which is at 2806 North 15th Street. We will go there for a couple of hours. There is actually a dinner. You do have to go online and actually register. We're more than happy for you to do that. If you'll go onto the Safe and Sound website and do that, that would be great. That'll tell us how many people to anticipate. We're at over 150 registrants at this point right now. And the only other thing, and I'll tell you, Mr. Parkinson, since you brought this up, I will also be rolling out from our office a pamphlet at that particular meeting that will address what the school system has really been trying to do all this year already, and that is we're going to create a pamphlet that talks about Baker Acts for children and frequently asked questions, how the Baker Act system works, what you can do as a parent. I've talked with school board member Cindy Stewart about sending that to them once we get the pamphlet in print so that they can change the format and electronically use it and send that out in an email blast to the parents of our children here in Hillsborough County. And why that's important is no matter where you go, no matter what meeting you go to, not only is mental health and mental well-being the number one topic being discussed in this community, not only from our children's standpoint, but even from adult standpoint, but more importantly, this Baker Act system has certainly brought some challenges to all of us, not only in the criminal justice system, but obviously in our community. There's a bill that's presently pending now in the legislature that's trying to address the problems that we think that we've all identified within the Baker Act system, but this pamphlet will at least allow parents to have something tangible to guide them on what they should do. We talk about crisis intervention training, how important that is, and how when you make a call out to help a loved one, that you should ask for someone who's been trained in crisis intervention. We talk about that you as a family have some significant rights, and you as guardians of children have significant rights, but it's critical that you have a plan on how to handle a situation when there is a meltdown in some way or a breakdown in some way. And we're convinced that giving parents a little bit of information about the system will at least assist them in understanding how it works and why it works. We're still working closely with law enforcement. Obviously, they have made it very clear that they recognize their role in this particular process. However, they certainly feel that there are better ways to address the mental health situations that arise, not only in the schools, but also in the community. But we're very focused right now in the school system because of the numbers of children that seem to be being Baker acted as out of the school system. And we're doing, the school board is not only open to these discussions, but so is obviously our superintendent. I've met with several of the members, and we are working diligently on finding better ways to handle things. We continue to offer our services from our office and saying if you really find yourself in a critical situation where you really think that somebody should be talking to the parents from a legal standpoint and to the children, we continue to offer the services of our office. I'm hopeful that at some point with a new superintendent coming in, we'll be able to solidify that type of a relationship and offer, because it's clear that parents do not have a good grasp of what is going on in terms of the mandates that the school system has, the mandates that law enforcement have. It's a huge communication issue, and all we can do is continue to try and talk about it. At some point, it may even be helpful to address here whether we want to do some type of public service announcement, as we talked about in the past for other areas involving juvenile crime. Because it is clear that the communication piece is what is necessary. The Baker Act system is a complicated system and does not really satisfy all the needs of all the parties. So at some point, that would be a great conversation to have. I think it's important to see how the bill up in the legislature, what the final form of that is. I would urge any of us here that are interested in this area to look at the bill that's pending, because it is some pretty significant, number one, assumptions, and number two, significant changes. So thank you, Mr. Parks, for bringing that up, and I hope that you all will be able to join us. It'll be a very good presentation. There'll be a lot of discussions about very serious issues with the Baker Act system, and it's going to be driven much more through facilitated questions with the people that are attending. So it's not going to be a come and listen to us talk at you. It'll be a discussion.
Just one thing to add, Ms. Halter, staff did a great job of reaching out to some really well-known subject matter experts on the issue. So they will be there actually doing a presentation on the issues of stigma in mental health, criminal justice in mental health, as well as access to mental health services. So great job on that.
Thank you. As you know, this is Marie's passion and has been for the 27 years that I've been the public defender, and as she is, I say, it's really great to see finally this issue is really being hit head on. It just has to be something that we all do together. So thank you very much again, Mr. Chair, for taking me out of order.
Ms. Holt, can you please, what is the date again of your event? And
January 23rd.
January 23rd?
And you could go on to the Safe and Sound website and get access to it. Last week, I know had filled up, but there's always ebbs and flows. And then also, I would call Safe and Sound and let them know that you are a member of the Juvenile Justice Board, and it would be really nice if they could fit you in.
And as you know, I never turn away anyone, so
The meet and greet starts, I believe, at 5:30.
Yes.
And then there's a dinner portion, and then the actual subject matter experts will be doing their presentations.
Bring a folding chair.
Last time we had standing room only. We were at the Children's Board. We had standing room only, so it's a tremendous turnout. But it's important for a lot of people to come and go. The dinner part, as I said, if you come, you can have my chair for dinner. I'm good with that. Thank you all. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Mr. Parkinson?
Mr. Chair, for the record, I know some people expressed some interest in looking at those bills. The primary one is House Bill 1083. There's a Senate bill that's just similar, that's 1062. And there's also House Bill 407 and Senate Bill 1426 that address Children's Baker Act issues.
Thank you, sir. All right, well, Ms. Holt left, but I just wanted to obviously commend her and all of the stakeholders. We are so fortunate in this community to have the constitutional officers that we have who have come together, including our county representatives and and other stakeholders. I mean, it's a big deal to have established a mental health court and to have a chief judge and a court administrator and a public defender and state attorney and everybody else that's involved in that to come together and identify that as an issue and then actually implement a process to better serve that population of children. And here we are a year later, and more improvements are being made, and more children are going to be served, and more enhancements are on their way. So we're really fortunate, and to have Chief Royston and Chrissy and everybody else who's played a part in that as well, really rolling up their sleeves and getting in there in the trenches and doing the work is a real testament to our partnerships and collaboration. So congratulations to everybody for that. And thank you. Okay, we can go back to our regularly scheduled agenda now, and we'll move on to board updates. Oh, Mr. Parkins?
Dr. Massey.
Okay, Dr. Massey, would you care to make your presentation now?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. I'm Tom Massey, for those of you who don't know, from Child and Family Studies in University of South Florida. I'm also the chair of the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee. And I'll try not to take too much of your time this morning. I didn't have a set of slides. I thought I'd just kind of briefly go over what we've done and kind of where we're looking. And just if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to entertain that too. So for those of you who don't know, the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee is a committee of the Board of County Commissioners. It was developed in 2009. And Sandy Merman has been a very vocal supporter of the committee. And I'll tell you a little bit about some of the things we've done, but I think for myself, the important thing is kind of to get people to understand what the issue of bullying is. Ms. Holt just said, a huge issue is communication, and I think that's, for something like bullying, that's also a huge issue because, at one end, we do have acts of violence, which are criminal acts, and at the other end, we have kids who fight among themselves and are next day best friends. And so bullying is that big, broad area that falls somewhere between those two areas that is kind of insidious because we knew about it when we were growing up, and our kids experienced when they were growing up, and of course kids today are experiencing it. And on one level, we just kind of tend to think of it as a rite of passage. So in some ways, we don't let it rise to a real issue of concern. And I think that's all right in some cases, but also poses significant risks in other cases. And the reason is because, one, I think bullying and harassment can become very serious, both as a kind of an impact in the community and the school, but also obviously as an impact on the child themselves. There's very clear evidence of the impact of bullying and harassment on the success of the child, on depression. We don't have to go into the more serious sequela of situations where a child, actually commits an act against themselves or someone else as a result of bullying. But, we have a hard time really defining it. And quite honestly, I think the Hillsborough County School District does a great job of trying to address bullying, but they're under constraints too. And the police do a great job, and the sheriff's office does a great job of trying to identify when bullying occurs and when they have an appropriate role. But sometimes it's hard to find that line that says this is where we take responsibility and this is where we can't take responsibility. So I think that leads us to where the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee can kind of serve a role and try to help the county, help the community, and help parents and families. So we really take our mission as to, and I think it even says in the mission statement, to help develop a comprehensive approach to bullying in the community. And I'm a university professor, so I sometimes get esoteric rather than practical, and people try to pull me back. But we have to do several different kinds of things, I think, for bullying. And one is to kind of raise awareness in the community that it is an issue, that we can't always just presume it's just friends or it's an act of criminal, it's a criminal activity. So we have to raise awareness, but we also have to search out information about just what is happening and how it's happening and where it's happening. And again, I think the school district does a pretty good job of identifying those instances in the school situation where they can clearly define bullying. However, after schools don't have that authority. And we've talked to folks in the library system, and once kids leave school and go to the libraries in the afternoon, school district doesn't have authority there. So how do you raise awareness, make sure we have the information about what's occurring and how it's occurring, how can we promote awareness in the community, and it's really, it's awareness for professionals who serve in juvenile justice or in child welfare, in the school district. It's awareness for the kids themselves, the youth and adolescents who are either not realizing what they're doing or think it's just part of growing up and you tough it out and you'll be all right. And parents who either as parents of victims or parents as perpetrators, not a good word perpetrator, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. So how do parents know and what can they do? So that's kind of my framework of where I think about it. As I said, Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee was developed in 2009. We've had a lot of activities since then. Bully Busters was one of the first. It was a school-based program, and that quickly morphed into SAVE programs, which are clubs in the schools, and the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee with some funds. Rob is a great supporter too, and he works with the committee. We were able to identify funds to help SAVE programs get started. We've had a couple of town hall meetings. We have put out PSAs. What you see most recently, one thing, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but one thing I think that is very clear to me is that as time has gone on, cyberbullying has emerged as probably the most critical issue, at least in my mind. And I think part of the reason is it's most difficult to control. Who has authority for the internet? Well, absolutely nobody. And so people don't understand. My generation and even my kids' generation are probably not as savvy and sophisticated with regard to what goes on the internet and social media as my grandkids are. Quite honestly, my grandkid's 6 years old, my oldest. So they have much more awareness of what goes on the internet than we do, and as a result, they can get into more trouble that we would really never know about. So the cyberbullying, just last year, 2018, and late 2017, 2018, we developed these brochures. We had we had posters, and the idea was to really put out an awareness campaign for parents to understand what cyberbullying is, where they can go, how they can report it, and just to understand a little bit about what goes on the internet that they simply may not be aware of. As a guy who is not even on Facebook, you can laugh at that. And of course, Facebook is not anything our kids use or our grandkids use at all. They're into Tinder and Instagram and some I can't even name. And so just that continued awareness to help parents understand what cyberbullying is, the impacts it can have, and where they can go for help. So that's where we're going right now. I'm talking quickly, but I know you guys have a big agenda. One other thing we're working with the Mendez Foundation. We were able to secure a small amount of funds for them to develop a training program. And the idea is, how can we get awareness out to the community? And as I said, we've had town hall meetings, we've had brochures, we've had PSAs, and each of those aim to kind of educate the public in different sections of the public. But one of the most difficult groups is parents. They're busy, there's a lot on their minds, they're working all day, they come home, they hope that the school district will protect their kids, and they do a good job of that, of course. But what else can they do? And so cyberbullying is kind of one of those areas that I feel like is ripe for intervention, and is just so critical. So back to the Mendez Foundation, what they're working on to developing for us is a small training program that they can offer to parents. So parents understand what to deal with and how to deal with instances of social media. And the idea, we quite frankly discussed it quite a bit, and honestly my idea was, well, let's inform them of all the different social media that are out there, you know, and like Instagram, and what the implications are. And as you might notice, some of those brochures, that's what we do on some of the brochures. And we have posters along the same line. And the Mendez Foundation, who, as many of you know, has a very long history in social emotional learning and Too Good for Drugs and Too Good for Violence programs, well, they came back and said, well, you know, these social medias change at the drop of a hat, and what's popular now will not be popular in 6 months or a year. So what we need instead to do is train parents and educate them with regards to how they talk with their kids about social media and what the issues are and how they can connect better to their kids about dealing with issues of bullying or harassment, whether it's, you know, knowing how to deal with it if you are the victim of it, or how to avoid doing those things that you may think are not significant, but the recipient might really be affected by. So at the present time, we're working with them to develop that. And then the next stage, of course, is, you know, how do we get it out to the public? We've talked about having school resource officers do that, but we know that they have a heavy responsibility, particularly with, you know, post Marjorie Stoneman and the legislation along those lines. We've considered PTAs, getting people out that way. So we have to continue to think about, you know, this issue of communication. How do we communicate between schools, between parents, between law enforcement, between the youth themselves about what the issue is, how we can address it, and how we can move forward in a positive way. I could tell you a little bit. Let me say real quickly, I had notes and I'm not following them at all, so I apologize. Beyond the cyberbullying awareness campaign, we also have had 2 years of the annual anti-bullying recognition award, where we have a community partner who has donated a small award, and we've had that twice now. And any youth or child, youth, adolescent in the Hillsborough County school system or recent graduate is allowed to be nominated. And quite honestly, it's an amazing event. It's awarded each November at the Board of County Commissioners meetings. We've done it twice now, and you would be surprised at just the extraordinary enthusiasm and energy of these young people who've addressed these issues. So if you keep that on your radar, because it'll be coming up. Actually, we'll start probably about May soliciting more nominations. And so if you identify a youth or a group, a young people's group, or an individual who is worthy of recognition for the work they do, please keep that in mind and watch for that announcement of the award, because there's some amazing young people out there. So well, let me stop, and be happy to entertain questions or comments if you have any.
Mr. Parkinson and then Mr. Benjamin.
Mr. Benjamin had his hand up first.
Oh, okay, Mr. Benjamin.
Thank you, Dr. Massey, for your presentation. One of the questions I have for you is how are you starting to handle the providers of the internet for the cyberbullying? Are we making contact to them about maybe putting controls on them, or is that a legislative move or a legal move that we can do in terms of that? If you can share that with us.
Yeah, it's an excellent question and a terrible answer, because we can't really control internet providers. One of the things we have discussed in the committee, at the point of sale for iPhones and things like that, we have talked about trying to get these brochures and posters out, just so that when a parent takes their kid to buy an iPhone, if you have $1,000 to drop on an iPhone, or if they buy it for themselves, at least they'll be aware of these issues, you know, so they have some understanding. And again, it relies on the parent or whoever's purchasing the iPhone or the iPad to recognize what the potential issues are. Unfortunately, I know there is some legislation that's being proposed. Nothing's happened yet with regards to regulating internet providers regarding the kind of content. And as you know, that some of the big content providers are beginning to kind of look at the content that they allow to be posted. I think the problem is, while Facebook and Google can do that, the small apps, it's simply a different scale. And I have heard nothing personally that will address that kind of issue.
Just a couple things to add. First of all, thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Massey. You do an incredible job, and you've really been the pinnacle of leadership for that group for many, many years now. The partnership in the community on bullying is so robust now, but I think we kind of take that for granted. Go back to prior to 2010, there weren't those relationships, there weren't those bonds. There also wasn't the data. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners formed the ABAC because an adverse incident at a Hillsborough County middle school that was particularly egregious. It was in the media, and one of our commissioners at the time, Commissioner Rose Ferlita, inquired about the issue, and the response was that we didn't have good data on it because just like now, the bullying reporting system was largely dependent on the individual principals to document within their individual schools. So one of the first steps of the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee was to quantify how much of an issue bullying is. They took steps with the school system. Of course, the school has that very wonderful online reporting system now, but that's fairly recent. Until that could be implemented, the Anti-Bullying Advisory Committee, Dr. Massey specifically, reached out to Crime Stoppers of Tampa Bay and asked them, can you do something so that we can identify bullying in the schools and in the community, have it reported through Crime Stoppers, and have them contact the schools and law enforcement? And that was a very early on big win for the ABAC. And to this day, even though the school system has their own system, and the sheriff's office has their own system, and TPD has their own system, Crime Stoppers continues to receive those reports in the community and report them back to the appropriate entities. And a couple other things that Dr. Massey has accomplished. He was able to secure the funds to have Ulvaeus, which is an international best-based practice and curriculum for addressing bullying. So I know a lot of us that go into the elementaries and middle schools for one reason or another see that Ulvaeus is being provided. That's largely due to the work of the ABAC in selling the program to the stakeholders, but also securing the funding for it. They also have historically received funding for Too Good for Violence curriculum, which is another evidence-based curriculum that was eventually delivered in the school district for those schools that wanted it. He mentioned the SAVE Clubs, the Public Awareness Campaign, and then the Anti-Bullying Award. Again, Ms. Eva Dyer, can you hold your hand up, Ms. Dyer? We'll be sending out notices circa March, April, Ms. Dyer, that the Anti-Bullying Award recognition process is open. She'll be collecting those awards electronically through a county website, and then those will be distributed to a subcommittee that Dr. Massey assigns to review the issue. They'll make a recommendation to the award, which will be delivered at the October Board of County Commissioners meeting. We've been very lucky. We've had a community donation to support that. So there's actually a very nice actual award that comes with it, but there's also been a cash award, which has been very nice. And we have some really, the committee's done a really good job of vetting these applicants, and we've had some really good kids in the last couple of years. The most recent award recipient, he ended up going to, was it U of F, Dr. Massey? U of F. The kid is just absolutely incredible, and he presented at the board, and he got his check, and he immediately donated it to buy defibrillators for sports teams in Hillsborough County who might have kids that are suffering from cardiac issues during practice. I mean, those are the kinds of kids that the ABAC are identifying. The year before that, it was a young lady from Temple Terrace who her school didn't have a bullying club or bullying initiative, and she formed it herself. She was elementary school, was she not?
Elementary, yes.
Yes. She went to the principal, got a sponsor at the school, and this little girl is just a force to be reckoned with. And just to see that the kids that I see are the kids coming from the juvenile justice system that we're engaged in and providing diversion services for. But to see these kids that are going to be our future leaders, these are going to be our future city councilmen and our commissioners and our presidents, and to see them in action so early on, it's just absolutely incredible, the work they do. So thank you for that, Dr. Massey.
Any other questions? Dr. Massey, thank you so much for everything, and I just want to offer to you on behalf of the Juvenile Justice Board, if there's any opportunity where we could work together or we could support any initiatives that you're bringing forward through the anti-bullying initiative, please, by all means, I'm sure Mr. Parkinson would keep us updated, but I want to extend that personally to you as well and let you know that we're here to support any effort that we can.
Absolutely, wonderful, thank you.
Okay, so we'll move to board priorities, and the first item is community connections. And so we have our first meeting scheduled for January 22nd at 1:30 p.m. It'll be held at the ACTS headquarters on 56th Street. And so a quick reminder, this is an initiative to look at the use of the Juvenile Delinquency Assessment Center that's on Dixon Avenue, and possible ways to expand that so that children who are not arrested could initiate services by appearing there. And so I anticipate that what we'll do is the work we did back in 2015 at the Collaborative Lab at St. Pete College. We'll take that on the civil citations, and we had a whole section on Friendly Door, and the committee met for some time as well when we were working on the civil citation issue. But we'll take that outline and kind of go through it at the initial meeting and see if that could provide a roadmap for a path forward to look at that issue. And it'll be good to work with Asha Turbinello again, too, so that'll be fun. Any questions regarding that?
What time is that again?
At 1:30 p.m. It's on the public notice that was sent out to. So if you're not sure, just check that public notice that I sent at the beginning of the month, and it's the last meeting listed on, or second. No, it's the last meeting listed on there. So,
Mr. Chair, have you reached out to Katie Hakama, who's managing the relationship between the county and the new Dependency Delinquency Prevention Center that we have off of Falkenberg? I think it's important that we have some member from that organization, either the county staff or, I almost said HKI, ECHRD, because some of the functions that we talked about being delivered at the Community Connection Center originally, I think some of those functions are being delivered at that new Falkenberg location. So there's some overlap, so we probably want to make sure as we move forward that we're cognizant of where those overlaps exist and which is the best mechanism for those interventions to be delivered.
I have not, but if you can provide me with the contact information,
Will do.
I would be happy to do that. Extend an invitation to attend.
Heather Cazzola just did a presentation at the Youth at Risk Committee, too. They're doing some great stuff over there. So that was one of the things I was going to bring up here. We might want her to present to the board at one of our future meetings.
So, yeah, let's do Heather, because she has the county contracts with ECHRD to do the services and subcontract out to all the constituent agencies, so she would be best to brief us on the status of all the sub-providers as well.
Perfect. Could either of you reach out to Ms. Cazzola and see if she can be at our executive committee meeting in February?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments or questions regarding community connections? Okay, the Evening Reporting Center, there's really nothing new to report there. We're anticipating that the department is going to issue an RFP for some funding that will become available within Hillsborough County, and so we're kind of in a holding pattern waiting for that RFP to be issued, and then it's anticipated that we have a couple of providers that are interested in submitting proposals, and we'll take it from there.
February.
February.
I called up there, it's at Bureau of Contracts, it's being drafted, it should be posted February for a $100,000 one-time allocation. The contract would start August 1st.
Excellent. Contracts is like, Chief Royston keeps calling, get this thing out. Okay, so the Detention Advisory Board, and I don't know if Major Grice, would you like to give a brief update on the Detention Advisory Board?
Oh, sure. So we met last Friday, right? Was it last Friday? We met last Friday. And we just tabled ideas that we wanted to bring into the new year. And a couple of items discussed was the fact that our advisory board will have a all-hands day to come out to the facility, and we're going to enhance the landscaping to kind of beautify the front of the facility, in addition to the renovations that have been completed, which included the refacing the front of the facility, along with resurfacing the sidewalk and the entrance to the facility. And I'm looking forward to that day in March, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe in February. End of
okay.
February.
And also, as our two presenters indicated, the importance of our school to be involved in the kids' life, we've also tabled, and hopefully it'll be coming to pass real soon, the idea of Hillsborough Detention Center being a GED prep site for our youth at risk. While they're in the facility, they'll be able to get some test-taking skills and practicing to prepare for the GED. And Ms. Dorian, Chrissy Dorian, has been very helpful and vital to the success of that. And looking forward to that coming to pass as well. So.
Excellent. A lot of good stuff going on there. I'm happy to be part of that. Thank you, Major Grice. Any questions? Okay. Mr. Brancato, do you want to provide an update on the work group on solitary confinement?
Sure. There's a written report to the board, but if you're not familiar with this, this subcommittee got started after a lawsuit was filed by the Southern Poverty Law Center on the issue of confinements of juveniles, and it was noted that Hillsborough County had at least from the data they provided, a very high number of confinements of juveniles. Our committee met on December 2nd, 2019. We reviewed the complaint and answer and the data that was provided in the lawsuit, and kind of noted that the children, I believe there was 3 children involved that were named. It's a class action, but the 3 named children all had serious mental health issues and educational histories, and likely was a driving reason why they were selected to be the named participants. The committee agreed that we would not focus on the lawsuit at all, nor make any assumptions based on the fact that a lawsuit was filed. Frankly, we decided that it'd be best to look at the data ourselves and come up with our own conclusions. And that really our intent is to see what our community can do as a whole to support the department if there is in fact an issue, because we haven't determined that yet. We did review 2 prior site assessments. One of them was from 2019 and the other was from 2016. Both of those had found some deficiencies in the area of confinements at the detention center. We agreed to meet on January 14th to review data. The meeting on January 14th was canceled because we did not have any data to review. And as far as our seeking to obtain data, we originally made a request on November 24th, 2019 to the department to obtain the data. On January 8th, 2020, we did receive a response from the department that it would take 4 to 5 weeks to complete the data, and that the department had requested a $1,359.65 deposit to begin work on retrieving the data. We made a request for waiver of the fee since this is a board priority, and we work in collaboration with the department under Section 985-664 of the Florida statutes. That request for a waiver was denied, and then it was further noted that the first figure I gave, the $1,569.65, was just a deposit, and that the estimated cost for all the records was $2,719.30. Since that time, we have modified our request to make it more broad in hopes that that would reduce some of the research costs, and that we can do some of the research ourselves to kind of narrow down what we're looking for. I will let the board know that the if we can get it down, great, but the cost will be covered at no expense to the board. It's going to get paid for, and we'll get the data. And just waiting to hear back from the cost for the more broad request. Finally, a suggestion was made by one of the subcommittee members to make sure that the department leadership knew that they're not only invited to participate in the committee, but we certainly desire them to do that. And I was received back from department regional leadership that they're not permitted to be a part of the committee on advice of counsel. So we'll get the data and we'll reconvene the committee, but that's kind of where we're at.
Any questions?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, if you could share with us, and if you have this information, you may or may not have it, what are the protocols and the standard that are set forth by statutory laws that a youth is placed in solitary confinement, and what's the extent and what controls or manager are in terms of that?
We do have the facility operating procedure. I know Major Grice probably could respond to that. The facility operating procedure, the one that we do have, was actually modified the exact same date that the lawsuit was filed.
Right.
But
how current is it?
It was, let's see if I got it here. I think I do. September 5th, 2019, and it's a public record. I could provide you a copy of it. It's 3 pages long. I don't know that we're going to have time to go into it today. But,
okay. What I would suggest is that, just so that we're all informed in terms of the committee, as well as the advisory board, if we can have that information, maybe forwarded to members, so that way we're in tune to what's going on and what's the procedure, because there are some standards that should be looked at as we not necessarily follow the lawsuit, but find out where some of the issues or challenges may be and what the requirements are. And certainly it may be different depending on the situation and circumstances.
Thank you, will do. Other questions? Thank you.
All right, thanks. So the Committee on Dually Involved Youth will meet next Thursday. I believe that's the 23rd at 10:30 a.m. at the Seminole Heights Branch Library. We continue to look at the equity profile concept and also some training focused on the folks that provide services to the children. So we'll continue our work on that. Any questions? Okay, let's go to DJJ updates, and we'll start with Chief Royston.
Not much this month. We have been kind of quiet. As far as prolific offenders, I report out on them every meeting. Seems to be staying stable. 15 prolific offenders, 7 in the community, 6 in secure, 2 in jail. And Major Grice is here. He might want to report out on the detention numbers. And other than that, just the evening reporting center. And I had a long-term employee, Charlie Robinson, senior probation officer, retired after 47 years with the department. And we nominated him for a Lifetime Achievement Award, which he was selected, so he receives that up in Tallahassee.
Oh, good, I'll be there.
So, are you going to be there?
Yeah, on the
Good.
30th.
31st or something? Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, Charlie Robinson is ours.
Awesome.
So, and that's it, if there's any questions.
Any questions for the chief? Okay, Major Grice, do you have anything else regarding detention?
Well, just a quick update on numbers in respect to Chief Royston. We're at, our total pop today was 56 this morning. 6 of those being girls, which is down from the month of December. We were averaging 70 kids the whole month of December. So the officers kind of get to breathe a little bit. Our vacancies have gone down since our last meeting from 11 to 7. With Chief continuing to keep the feet to my fire, we've been able to get some of these vacancies filled with some good officers, and hopefully we can retain them, through staff incentive and things of that nature. We had 78 hours of volunteer services during the month of December, which is a little over 2 hours a day of volunteer services. The kids look forward to, that attention. So it's been very successful for us. In addition to that, I failed to mention a couple of things that we spoke about at the advisory board. If you guys don't mind, it'll be just a couple of minutes. I have, with respect to the trauma-informed care that we're constantly trying to ensure that everyone is up to date on, we have a training provided by Safe and Sound, Ms. Amicia Bagley, scheduled for March 11th. It's titled the Mental Health First Aid Training for Youth, and I'll be sending some officers to that training and reaching out to other facilities within the region to see if those superintendents would want to send some officers as well. I think it'll be a good idea for us to get as many officers involved with this type of training as much as possible. Also, I've been speaking with Ms. Sarah Blumberg and Howard Johnson with Pace Center for Girls. They want to come to the facility and implement their ideas of making it a more, trauma-informed, free environment so the kids can be more relaxed and less uptight with the environment. And they have some pretty cool ideas as to how to go about that. So I'm looking forward to continuing to collaborate with them on that aspect. And also, Mr. Brian Ferguson, one of the board members, also allowed me to reach out to him to assist in, with some of the renovations and the funding that goes along with that, to continue to make our detention center one of the best. And I'd just like to extend a sincere appreciation to all the support from the community. It means a lot. I mean, I had more members than I had chairs at the meeting, and it gave me goosebumps. And I just really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you too, Major Grice. When you started working at detention, you were Captain Grice, and then you were acting Major Grice, and now you're Major Grice, and you're the superintendent over there. And I can tell you, all that, like one child at a time, well, one person can make a difference. And I can tell you that detention center I think has the community's confidence. And that's in great part because of your efforts and everything that you're doing there. So the community support, I think, is really, you're kind of your initiative and everything is kind of infectious. So, you attract folks that want to do the same thing. And seeing all the volunteer services and the yoga and the taekwondo and all the activities that are going on at the detention center that the community is providing, and more people are coming forward. And, I think it should be noted that the review of the solitary confinement issue is in no way any reflection of what you're doing and what's going on at that detention center. I believe that this board has a obligation, right, when there's something of that magnitude that rises involving children in the system, that we have an obligation to look at it. But in no way, and I'm sure it's very uncomfortable when we talk about that, and I apologize for that, but in no way is it a reflection of what you're doing or the current status of affairs at the detention center. Because I can tell you, I go there for those meetings, and the staff are all happy, and everybody's high-fiving, and it's a great atmosphere over there. And your vacancies are down, and that's in great part because of you and Chief Owens and all the work that you all have done to reduce that. Because for years, the vacancy rates for detention workers here and everywhere, right? It's not just a unique problem to Hillsborough County, has been really problematic, and that creates additional problems when you have folks working overtime and working 3 shifts in a row, and you get a little short-tempered after that period of time, and so it's not a good situation for the children either or the staff. But you've done a fantastic job of recruiting folks and making that environment one that shows that they're appreciated for the work that they do, and I think your drop in vacancies and your retention numbers reflect that. So I just want to commend you and for the work that you're doing, and we're here to support you and work in tandem with you to help you any way that we can. So thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, Ms. McGee, do you have any updates from prevention?
Not really. The only thing that I just want to mention is that we do have a upcoming PAT training that is going to be January the 30th at St. Pete Wildwood Probation Office. So if there's any providers that are in need of PAT, make sure that you either go on Skill Pro to register, or either, give me a call, and then that way I can probably get you into the training.
Pat, when is that?
January 30th.
Okay, because we have a provider that needs it, I think. I'll get with you, the same provider in Circuit 6 and 13.
Okay.
Sign them up. Wildwood. PAT training. Excellent. That's good information right there. Okay. How about JDAI?
Okay, so I will just say, I am formally going to be known as the Justice Reform Coordinator in the future, just to kind of clear up any misnomers about what JDAI means.
Okay.
So that's just a Tallahassee change.
Can I still refer to it as JDAI?
Sure.
Okay.
So, we are about to release our January newsletter, which is about the Youth and Family Voice. That's going to be up on the DJJ website under the JDAI tab. And I would really implore you all to take a look at it, because we've got some really great kids and stories that we're highlighting this month. So 2020, I'm hoping to focus more on technical violations and DMC issues. I really think we need to narrow what we're working on so we can get some stuff done with the data. I am in the process of updating Circuit 13's R.E.D DMC work plan. Once I update that work plan, I would like to look into reinvigorating the R.E.D DMC committee here, because it pretty much is dead in the water as of right now. So once I get that done, I will give everyone more information. The final thing is that Q4 data for 2019 is going to be released on the 20th this month, so I will have that to present to everyone here next meeting.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Steiner.
Welcome.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to Ms. Boatwright and civil citations. Good morning.
Good morning. I passed out some of the statistics. Hopefully you have a copy in front of you. If not, I've got extra copies for The month of December, the Juvenile Diversion Program received 45 civil citations. 24 came from the community, where 21 were school-based referrals. The agencies continue to utilize civil citations. Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office collectively from the various districts sent us 26 referrals. TPD sent 19 referrals, and we did not have referrals from ABT, Plant City Police Department, or Temple Terrace Police Department. In terms of the actual law violations, battery, we had 11 total, and then we had 15 petty theft. And the other charges, as you can see from the statistics in front of you, were affray, disruption of school function. We had one false alarm, and possession of marijuana. We had a total of 6 of those. Does anybody have any questions, input regarding the statistics that are in front of you? I think you guys know that I don't necessarily like to read to you, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yvette?
Yes.
We were just making the observation that the domestic battery cases seem to be on the decline.
As a matter of fact, since the, I think, March 2019 expansion where we were able to add the battery domestic violence charges, our program has not received a significant number of civil citations for that particular civil citation. We work very closely with the Child and Family Counseling Program when we do receive those referrals, but it's not one of the charges where we receive a great number of citations.
And maybe in the coming months that we should make some efforts to reach out to law enforcement, remind them that it's there and who's eligible and how to get the referrals in.
Yes, Ms. Rhonda Rhodes and I had discussed possibly reaching out to law enforcement to see if it would be beneficial for our program to attend some of the roll calls so that we can reiterate the charge is one of the eligible offenses. And you're absolutely right, Mr. Parkinson. It may be the right time to start talking with law enforcement regarding that.
There is a Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting next Friday. Maybe that might be a good time to just remind our chiefs and our sheriff that that's out there, and then they could disseminate it to their staff.
Okay. The Coordinating Council
Yeah, Public
meeting
Safety Coordinating Council for you, Chief Judge.
next Friday.
Next Friday, 8:30, in this very room.
Okay.
Chief Judge Figueroa is your representative.
Okay. Thank you.
Maybe that would be a good time to just remind them that's there.
Okay, thank you. And then if we don't have any other questions, I have one brief announcement just to remind everyone that's here. Miss Kimberly Haynes, who presented back in June, I believe, of 2019. She's with Lions Quest, and she had been talking about social and emotional learning. We had started talking about a training that Lions Quest and Lions International would be willing to provide to Circuit 13 free of charge. We've had a planning meeting. We've had a follow-up telephone call, and January 31st is the actual training. The training will take place in this very building on the 24th floor, and the Hillsborough County Criminal Justice and Grants Management Office is kind enough to sponsor a continental breakfast, lunch, and some snacks. So please, if you can, on January 31st from 8:30 until 4:30 on the 24th floor, join us. It's not too late to participate, and we've had both of the presenters today make reference to SEL and how significant it is. It's an evidence-based practice, and so we hope you can join us.
Yvette, if they wanted to register for it, would they contact you to get on the list?
Sure, you can go ahead and contact me. My email address, if you all don't still have the email that has gone out, is BOATWRYL@FLJUD juvenile13.org.
And this is a wonderful training opportunity. It would usually cost thousands and thousands
Yes.
of dollars. But through our friends with the DEA, Rod, raise your hand, he was able to put us together with some sponsors that were able to come through with the support. And actually, it's the Lions Club of Wesley Chapel that covers this area and will actually be paying for this service. Now, the really cool thing is we have a lot of small grassroots organizations that provide services to our juvenile populations, and they do some really wonderful things, a lot of opportunities provision, but it's not an evidence-based intervention. And what this training is going to do is it's not going to be so prescriptive as it will say this is the specific SEL that you have to follow, but they're going to educate them on how to take what they have and augment it so it's SEL compliant, and then they can turn around and tell whether it's a local funder or a state funder or a federal funder that they are legitimately implementing an evidence-based practice. So it's a great opportunity, especially for those small mom and pops or even an established mid-sized organization that's doing opportunities provision to take it to the next level. And if they're applying for state or federal grants, those grantors are going to want to see that they're implementing an evidence-based practice, and SEL is one of them that is internationally recognized. So thank you, Yvette, for that opportunity. It's a great resource for this community.
Thank you.
Ms. McGee?
Is there a possibility to resend that email back out?
Yes.
So then that way, because there are some providers and things that I oversee in prevention that I would love to be able to let them know.
I'll send it this afternoon. Just give me the email.
Okay.
Also, our faith-based organizations that do faith-based interventions, if they could coalesce that with an evidence-based practice, they would be much more effective.
Okay, anything else? Excellent, as always, Ms. Boatwright, thank you very much. And I don't see anybody from Sins Fins, so we will pass that on. Old business and new business, the only thing I want to bring up is that House Bill 615 and Senate Bill 700 both passed committee this week. That's the juvenile expunction bill, which would allow children who complete a juvenile diversion program within the state of Florida for a felony arrest would have an opportunity to expunge their record at no cost. Currently, the law only allows children diverted for misdemeanors to use that process upon completion of the diversion program, and these bills would allow it for children that complete diversion for a felony. The Senate bill has a companion which sunsets the provision in 2025. The House version does not, but it's good news that they're both moving along. Any other new business or old business or announcements? Any public comment? Oh, Chrissy?
I have one comment.
Yes, ma'am.
For students who are arrested in the community for serious violent felonies, there's always a school-based hearing that's held. Not school board, school-based hearing. And we're working very diligently to eliminate suspension days, hold those hearings while the students are in detention so that they have an alternative placement the day they get out of detention. So if anybody has any questions about change of placements, I would be the person to contact. And it's working very, very well so that it's a seamless educational placement. The day they get out of detention, they go to that placement.
That's fantastic. Mr. Cunningham?
Good morning or good afternoon.
Good morning.
Yes, still morning. I want to allow you to tell about the 17th and 18th of February.
Okay,
Your event.
we have our annual prevention conference. This is our 8th annual. It'll be held at the Doubletree here in West Shore on February 17th and 18th. We have the Surgeon General is coming to give the keynote.
Oh, wow.
We have Bertha Madras from Harvard, who does all the research on marijuana and its effects on the teen brain. She's given her latest research. And we also have a number of other high-profile researchers presenting their data. So if you're interested, let me know. or I can send you the link so you can send it out if people would like to register.
Sure.
And what kind of guests are normally at the event?
We started this as a way to inform preventionists as we work in the field on the latest research and data. And so it has grown from there. So we have law enforcement, prevention, treatment, all of us in the field, school districts, all attending so that they can gather knowledge from this.
And following that, on the 19th through the 21st, we will be hosting, actually, along with HCADA, DEA 360 program, as well as CATCA, which is the Community Anti-Drug Alliance of America, Coalition of America. We will be hosting a community boot camp to teach people how to rally communities together. That's what the training is all about. It's normally held in D.C. and probably will cost you about $4,000 plus hotel to attend such a training. So the DEA is bringing that training here to Tampa, and that's you have to attend all 3 days, but that's February the 19th, 20th, and 21st, and it's going to be held at HCADA as well. And I can send you that link to go out as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham.
And I'd just like to thank R.E.D and the DEA for partnering with us and bringing these important trainings to our community.
Absolutely.
This has been a great experience, the whole DEA 360 project here in Tampa.
Yep. Mr. Cunningham has done a great job, and we're happy to have him too. Okay, is there any other public comment? Are there any further announcements?
I just wanted to let everyone know that our public defender, Julianne Holt, has been selected to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Tiger Bay Club. She'll be receiving it along with our tax collector, Doug Belden. There'll be a dinner on January 27th at 7 o'clock at the Cuban Club. And if you are interested in attending and celebrating, you can go to tigerbayclub.com to purchase a ticket.
Excellent, well deserved. Okay, seeing no further business, Chief Royston moves that we adjourn, so we will stand adjourned. Thank you.